So a few things going on. We'll come to Sergio Ramos in a moment, and obviously tomorrow's game in Gdansk. But first, Atletico edge Real Madrid to La Liga title. All very dramatic. Luis Suarez thanking Atletico for giving him the chance to do his thing. Scored 21 league goals in total. Was man of the hour, as Barcelona, I'm sure, were looking on. It was very dramatic, though. They were down in this game.
Yeah, and they played really poorly in the first half, looking extremely nervous against a team who had been in terrible form, Valladolid, but needed the win to try and avoid relegation. And Luis Suarez, obviously, it's the perfect narrative. It's the perfect story that, having been discarded by Barca, he inspires Atletico to win the title, which in a way he did. But the key moment in the game was actually Angel Correa, the equalising goal that he scored. And that, for me, was the more important thing for Atletico this season. That, yes, Luis Suarez, top scorer, he's always going to score you goals. But the thing they had that Real Madrid and Barca didn't have was other players making major contributions, like Correa, like Llorente, like Carrasco, like João Felix. They didn't just rely on Luis Suarez. So it's easy to say Luis Suarez, the hero who won Atletico the title, but it's actually not that true.
It's their 11th title in their history. We know Real Madrid's and Barcelona's financial situation is dire. Where are Atletico on that curve?
Well, they're a bit more stable. They're heavily in debt, but it's more manageable debt because they have a squad that is settled. They've got a younger squad as well. And they've got assets. If they need to sell, they can. People like João Felix will be worth a lot of money relatively, although obviously the market has changed dramatically. But just looking at them, there's a lot more stability about Atletico than there is about Real and Barcelona. And personally, I think when we start next season, obviously depending on what happens in the summer, I think we should look at them as actually the favourites for the title. And it's been a long, long time since we've been able to say that anyone other than Real Madrid or Barcelona can be thought of in that way.
Yeah, amazing. That was going to be my next question. So you would have them as favourites. Sorry, Dan, shoot.
I was just going to say, Andy, are they popular winners in Spain? You know, in terms of the Spanish public, are they thinking, oh yeah, we like this, we can buy into this story, even though there's some divisive characters involved, maybe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's Spain is interesting in the way that people follow football. That a lot of people around the country will follow Real Madrid or Barcelona and their local team. So it's not quite as partisan as in many other countries. So obviously, you know, that makes it somewhat less popular because there's always, wherever you go, there are Real Madrid or Barcelona fans. But in terms of people who don't support one of those two teams, absolutely. People love the fact that Atletico upset the big two. And I don't think even they're seen as being divisive characters. There's nothing but respect for Simeone. There's nothing but respect for Luis Suarez. So I don't think that there's any ill will at all against Atletico. And other than people who support the clubs they beat, absolutely hugely popular.
Sergio Ramos then, I guess, caught the headlines. He has been left out of Spain's Euro 2020 squad. Interestingly, Luis Enrique has declined the chance to take 26. There are bigger squads allowed for this championship, so you can take 26. He's named a 24-man squad. What's the logic there?
He said he didn't want to take people who knew they wouldn't play. And this is Luis Enrique all over. He's very headstrong. He knows what he wants to do. He won't conform. He won't just say, 26, okay, I'll take 26. If he thinks it's better to take 24, that's what he'll do. And he does feel that way. He thinks that with 26, basically with a 24-man squad, you've got two teams, two complete teams. If you have more than that, then you've got a third man who they know they're not really going to be playing any part unless there's an injury. So that's his thinking. And in terms of Ramos, yeah, of course, it's a big deal to not include Sergio Ramos, but he hasn't played for a long time. He had an attempted comeback against Chelsea in the Champions League and was then immediately out again. And actually, other than the media who fervently support Real Madrid, the bigger debate in Spain has been Iago Aspas, who's been one of the best forwards in Spain, not just this season, but for the last 3 or 4 years, but has been discarded again for people like Alvaro Morata, who haven't been particularly impressive. So Ramos, when you stay away from the Real Madrid-centric things, it's not that big a story here.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think so. I mean, he doesn't have a great case to make. It is extraordinary, though. I hadn't fully appreciated he's on 180 caps, which is just exceptional. I think the world record I was reading was 184, held by Ahmed Hassan, the Egyptian player. So Ramos, 180 caps, pretty extraordinary. The no Real Madrid player thing is kind of amazing as well. First time in history?
First time in history, and it's interesting and maybe revealing about Real Madrid, perhaps in a way, that the biggest debate, as I say, other than people who've got some kind of agenda, it's not really been pushed the Sergio Ramos angle. And the player that has been most complained about not being involved is Nacho, the very versatile defender, very experienced, very, very steady. But I don't think anyone would say, oh, Nacho, what a player, he's got to be in any squad. Yeah. And that really just tells you about maybe the state of Real Madrid, that their strongest case is really a utility player who would be in the squad by virtue of being able to play a lot of positions rather than because he's world class.
How strong is this Spanish squad then? What are the optimism levels like over there?
Not that high, to be honest, compared to the squads they've had over the last 10 or 15 years, where, you know, Spanish football's been spoiled, hasn't it? When they had the Xavi, Iniesta, Ramos, Alonso, all those great players from 10, 15 years ago. Compared to that, it's nowhere near as strong. And I think the big concern is goal scoring. And maybe this can segue neatly into the Europa League final, because Gerard Moreno is the hope as a goal scorer. Other than him, there's not a lot of goal scoring in that squad, but it makes it more interesting that Aspas has been left out, because he is a consistent scorer.
Well, let's turn to tomorrow then in Gdansk. Manchester United against Villarreal. Bit of previous history, certainly in the kind of early, mid-2000s, they came across each other a couple of times. Villarreal, often talked about as quite a romantic story. Population of, 50,000, not a big place, and really didn't have a rich history as a football club either. It's really only in the last kind of 3 decades or so that they've emerged. So there is a bit of romance in so much as there is romance in elite European football these days.
Absolutely. It's amazing that Villarreal have not only been able to get their way up into the upper echelons, as they did, as you say, a couple of decades ago, but that they've been able to stay there. And actually that they got about 10 years ago, they got relegated and then came back up. So they had the dip that you'd expect from any small town. You know, it is a small town. It's, I don't know, the size of Cork or Newbury, somewhere mundane like that. And they are, and it is a mundane town. There's nothing much to the town. It's a periphery town of Valencia, which obviously is the big place on that coast. And there's nothing much to it. But all of a sudden, they've had this elite football club spring up, really from nowhere, and not just spring up, but stay there. And it's an incredible story. And actually, a really nice part of this is that the club president, who's made a lot of this happen, Fernando Roig, got COVID last week, and there was a big worry that he wouldn't even be able to travel for the biggest game in the club's history, the first ever final they've ever played in. But he got the all clear yesterday, so that's a nice part. The man who made a lot of it happen. It's not often that people talk about club presidents in a romantic way and in an affectionate way, but he's one who just commands respect because of what he's done on a small budget in a small town with a team that really has no right to be anywhere near where they are. And yet here they are playing Man United, and they've been up around that level for a number of years now.
Yeah, it is amazing. Unai Emery, by the way, going for his 4th win in this competition, which would be a record. What chance do you give them?
I think obviously United are favourites, but not as clear favourites as maybe many people think. And it's interesting with Emery. That's the big story in Spain. That's why he was hired. Villarreal actually finished higher in the league last season, but then they fired their manager, Javi Calleja, because they didn't feel, Ruiz, who I mentioned, didn't feel that he could take them on a long European run. So they said, thank you very much for making us one of the most attractive to watch teams in Spain, scoring a lot of goals and taking us into Europe. Now you're fired. and we're going to appoint someone else. And that was Unai Emery, because of his track record in Europe. That's why they brought him in, to take them deep into European competition. And although their league season's been a little bit disappointing, he's absolutely, of course, done what was required of him. That's why they hired him, to take them to the Europa League final, try and get into the Champions League that way. And I'd say 30-70. United are favourites. They've got a deeper squad, probably more firepower. If Gerard Moreno doesn't fire for Villarreal, you wonder who else will. But it's by no means a foregone conclusion. They play really good football. They're a really solid team. Emery has them playing in a constructive, controlled way. They shouldn't be easy to break down. And they do have maybe the best Spanish player in La Liga this season, Gerard Moreno.